Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in webinar land. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Enterprises, and I'm joined today by Senior Consultant Ted Brennan. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
And we're glad that you've joined us today for the webinar, Integrate Your Salesforce to Dynamics ERP. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Southern California, not a cloud in the sky, and we hope that you're having a great day wherever you may be. Sit back and relax. Feel free to enter questions at any time in the chat box. We'll be happy to take those questions at the conclusion of today's formal presentation. For today's topic, we'll be talking, of course, about Salesforce CRM and Microsoft Dynamics ERP systems like Dynamics AX, GP, NAV, or SL. We'll be specifically focusing for the most emphasis on probably Dynamics AX in that group. We're going to talk about how to use a highly reliable 5-star Salesforce App Exchange adapter that comes with the Magic XBI integration platform, how to manage your business processes that run between Salesforce and your ERP system. Specifically, ideas like automating opportunity to order conversion, your accounts receivable status, your master item data, and much more. And we'll see in a live demonstration the Magic XBI integration platform. 4.5 is now out, and the new Visual Studio interface is a beautiful thing to behold. It allows you to design business process flows between applications, whether you're in cloud or on-premise, and so we'll see all of that today. Some basic considerations, of course, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, and Microsoft ERP systems are under the Microsoft Dynamics brand. The options, as we hinted, include Microsoft Dynamics AX, Microsoft Dynamics NAV, Microsoft Dynamics GP, SL, and so on. There's also important to know that Dynamics AX meets the needs of a wide range of companies in terms of size. You can manage your entire business organization, includes your supply chain, your procurement, your human resources, your financials, and your projects. However, there are other products available for CRM. So for those of you who have Salesforce, this is the webinar that you really want to focus in on to see how you can do that hybrid cloud integration that's sometimes needed to span integration between cloud-based solutions and on-premise applications or wherever your applications may be. Let's think about Dynamics for a moment. Some of the options that are available include, as we said, the NAV, the GP, and the AX, and various versions that are out there, various price ranges, and typical number of users that these are targeted to. The architecture is slightly different. Some are strictly .NET architecture, some more SOA-based, if you will. And you can look at the database options for these that vary a little bit. Server operating systems available will vary a little bit, although Windows is certainly available for all of them. After all, it's a Microsoft product. You have some SaaS options in some of these, and API methodologies naturally will vary from the various versions depending upon the release numbers that you're working with, as well as the various flavors of Microsoft Dynamics ERP, whether it's NAV, GP, or AX. So for all of these, web services are an option for integration. Dynamics GP also has a COM option. And AX has the most options, including .NET connectivity, MSNQ capabilities, flat XML file exchanges, and of course the Magic XBI integration platform offers a native Microsoft Dynamics AX adapter or component. So that would be the option that most of you would use if you're using Magic XBI integration platform. Now, when you're using Dynamics ERP and CRM in the same organization, there's a need to intermediate the APIs that come with these various programs. You're going to want to allow not just scheduled batch integration processes, but also real-time processes and asynchronous processes that are triggered in an event-driven environment. All of these are very exciting capabilities brought to you through the Magic XBI integration platform to keep the systems in synchronization and transactions in process. Interfaces between these systems help you to manage the opportunity to order conversion process, things like your address book integration, product information or master item database information, pricing that goes along with that, and also can give you visibility into things like your inventory, your orders, where is my stuff is a question customers often ask, and you're going to want that answer. Sometimes the ERP system is the one that has the answer. You want that information available in CRM, for example. Credit status is the same. Credit status is known, obviously, in the financial or ERP system, but salespeople often need to know the answer to credit status. It helps in a number of dimensions, either salespeople that are helping with collections, or more importantly, just to know if the customer is even authorized for new purchases from your finance organization. So how do we do this? From a how-to standpoint, if you're working with Salesforce, you're going to want to be able to work with a variety of capabilities for integration. You want to do object-level integration. You want to be able to work with the metadata, the bulk jobs, be able to replicate data, and do things like lead conversion in Salesforce. So in order to do that, working with objects means you're going to want to be able to get the objects list, work with the timestamping capabilities of the Salesforce system, be able to update the object structure, be able to merge objects within Salesforce. So it's important to be able to dynamically get the objects list because of the ability of the users and the administrators to personalize the implementation. So what Magic XBI Integration Platform will do is read all of that in at the beginning as you're designing your business process flows, so that you have not just a generic view of Salesforce, but a view of your customized version of Salesforce. Very important. It's also important to be able to work with metadata. You want to be able to create, read, update, and delete metadata, to deploy it, to retrieve it, to check the metadata state. So these are important capabilities related to the information about the data, the information about the information, if you will, within Salesforce. And of course, Magic XBI Integration Platform is giving you full metadata control as well as control of the data itself. Salesforce bulk jobs are a key concept, because for those of you with higher levels of Salesforce, you have bulk job capabilities. It's very important to be able to work with those bulk jobs to be able to process large numbers of transactions, get that really big transaction volume flowing through between systems, so that when you're doing things like updating the master item database, for example, you can do a job like that in bulk rather than trying to, pass one record at a time over the cloud. So those are some important capabilities that are built into the Magic XBI Integration Platform as well. Replication is another key concept. It's great to have everything in the cloud, but there are a lot of us who just like to have some of that information available back on Earth, right? So what we want to do from time to time is be able to replicate, to be able to pull data out of Salesforce, archive it for the enterprise, for security purposes, for perhaps regulatory compliance purposes, and just for that peace of mind that comes with knowing that your data is always available to you, regardless of what the status of the availability to the cloud may be. So you can do that. Now, there's another capability that we mentioned called lead conversion. This is an important capability within Salesforce, where you can take a lead and turn it into an account, a contact, and create an opportunity associated with that. And you have control in Magic XBI Integration Platform over how those conversion processes take place, when they take place, and you can pass additional data and parameters, not just the data that's within Salesforce, but also information coming from Microsoft Dynamics that might be important to that whole process as well. So very cool stuff. Now, the Magic XBI Integration Platform that you'll be working with to integrate your Salesforce to your Dynamics ERP systems, Dynamics AX or GP or Navision and so forth, is an integration platform that works with an in-memory data grid for high performance, elastic scalability, and high availability. It has connectivity through pre-built components to a wide variety of industry applications that are enterprise level applications. It has Also the capability for working with a wide variety of technical adapters so that you can work with all of the many different kinds of APIs that have been created to make software accessible and usable by other applications and with other applications. So quite often you'll hear vendors say, we're fully integrated, and what they really mean is we have an API. And so that API may be XML based, it may be web services based, it might be based on Java or a variety of different capabilities. But what it doesn't mean is that it actually speaks the data dictionary of the application that you want to integrate to. The data dictionaries never match. And so as a result, when you need to use an integration platform, not only to do the data transformation and all the logical mapping, but also to intermediate the communications between these various systems. What happens if the internet's out for 5 minutes and a transaction that one side thought had been shared was not actually received? You've got to have recovery processes that know how to go back in and pull that information in once communication is reestablished, right? So you need some sophistication in the brokering and the intermediation, the transformation of this information between these various systems, even though it's wonderful, yes, they do all have APIs. And so they all will say, we're integrated, we're open, we're, it's all taken care of. Don't worry about it, Mr. Customer or Ms. Customer. But the reality is that you do need to have some capability for this, or else you're stuck with point-to-point programming, and that's what we're going to try to help you avoid in today's webinar. So the Magic XBI Studio is a code-free drag, drop, and configure approach for business and IT users. You have one skill set for multiple applications. It's a very friendly studio based on Visual Studio. So it will have a familiar and intuitive look and feel to most of your organizations. It gives you a very great user experience. Developers are very productive because they're using hundreds of pre-built components and processes and services that are quite often certified or validated by the enterprise application providers, as well as we mentioned this wide variety of technology adapters. And we're excited about the Magic XBI Studio, so we're going to show it to you in just a moment. What you'll be seeing in that demonstration is how you can work with triggers in event-driven architecture, how you can create a business process flow, how you can work with a toolbox of drag, drop, and configure components in the process of creating your business integration. The Datamapper is going to be a key thing for you to look for in Ted's demo, as it shows you how to transform information from one API or one system on the left to another system on the right, and to transform that and map it into the right places. And it's a very powerful capability there. Now, the orchestration and monitoring that occurs, let's talk about it separately. Business process orchestration is fully supported in Magic XBI integration platform. So this means that you have a variety of capabilities in one powerful studio. ESB capabilities, or Enterprise Service Bus, which means that you have real-time triggers and web services, very modern kinds of ways of integrating. But sometimes the old ways are not so bad. ETL is also included. In other words, the ability to transform data on a scheduled basis using that Datamapper, but in a more batch-oriented approach, if you will, to that sharing of information. And business process management capabilities, or BPM capabilities, are included as well, so that you have control over business logic. Conditional can be incorporated in what you're doing at all times, as well as the ability to work with messaging and all the various protocols. Now, from a monitoring standpoint, the monitoring that's possible in the Magic XBI integration platform is also really exciting. I hope that we'll have a chance to look at a little bit of that and see those capabilities in the demonstration as well. But with the new monitor, you'll be able to monitor remotely, see exactly what's going on with all of your integration processes, get alerts, look at statistics, invoke scheduled business processes remotely through the monitor, and see how the license usage is going in the system. All of these capabilities are all built into the monitoring as well. So you have this very nice interactive monitor that you can look at and get dashboard views as well as log views, even from a perspective of looking at every single piece of data that you've tracked and monitored using the system. Now, behind all of this, behind the studio, behind the monitoring, is the server itself. And the Magic XBI Server is very robust and powerful. We would call it an enterprise-grade server, in that it has high scalability and high availability through the in-memory data grid messaging layer, gives it a self-healing characteristic, and what Ted will describe to you as active-active clustering out of the box. This capability means that you have very low latency. There's no big delays, because when you work in memory, you're not writing to hard disk. You're actually processing those transactions in memory. You're using whatever servers are available, whatever processors are available, whatever memory is available to accomplish your task in parallel, and also to have hot backup right there ready to go, so that if a process fails, it's also being executed in parallel in duplication, and you pick up the other process, so that it's completely seamless to users and to administrators, which is really exciting. Now, you do have control over that, of course, in the setup and so forth of your administration. Also built into that server capability, and you can control from your studio environment, are all the security protocols that you want to use for user authentication and user rights, encryption and decryption, secure file transfers, and so on. So all of those capabilities and standards are built in, and you use those to make sure that your integration processes are all tied up and secure. So analysts love this. We've been followed for years by Forrester and Gartner. Obum recently said that the Magic XBI integration platform is a good option for organizations that need a flexible and scalable approach to on-premise, cloud, and mobile application integration that does not require highly skilled or specialized developers. And I think that's really key. It doesn't require highly skilled or specialized developers. A business analyst can do this. A developer can do this. And you need your skilled IT people who understand the business process, are familiar with data structures, and they'll just go to town with a tool like this because it makes it really easy. So we wanted to just briefly mention that mobile capability, although that's not the purpose of today's webinar. We do provide mobile integration for Salesforce. We do provide mobile integration for Dynamics AX as well, so that you can get a mobile app that spans and interfaces to any of these applications. You can get a customized mobile app. So that integration is there, as well as the capability for developing the apps. Makes it real simple. And we have other recorded webinars where you can see that taking place. But just to summarize, that end-to-end enterprise mobile capability would include the Magic XBI application platform for building mobile apps, the Magic XBI integration platform for integrating those mobile apps, and then the Magic mobile device management capability for making sure that crazy things happen, not even related to the apps themselves necessarily, but like your user loses the phone. I was going to say your loser uses the phone, but maybe that happens too. It needs to be controlled. I don't know. Anyway, mobile device management capabilities can allow you to administer policies as an IT department to control the phone, the apps, and so forth. And then, of course, we offer the professional services that you might need to build those apps, to integrate them, to just kind of get started so that your IT department can then develop the internal skills that you need, as mobile is still new for many organizations. So just a word about Magic before I sort of pass things over to Ted for the demo. I wanted to mention that Magic Software has been in business for 33 years. We're not a new company. We've been traded on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol GIC. We had $176 million in revenue in 2015. We've got over 1,000 employees, well over 1,000, more like 1,200 now. 24 global offices, some 50 countries, some 3,500 global business partners that work with us on Magic XBI and Magic XPA, and all in support of millions of users, from well-known name brand organizations down to mid-sized companies. And These organizations that have worked with us over the years, we have lots of use cases and studies, case studies that we'd be happy to share with you regarding that, but we're not going to go into that today because I know you're really here to see stuff happening. I just wanted to say, if you need to schedule a follow-up call, we're happy to do that. In fact, we have a person named Angela who's very lovely and would love to talk to you to schedule an appointment. So her phone number is 949-250-1718, and she is at extension 259. Or you can just send an email to info@magicsoftware.com. If you're shy, you're not sure you're ready to talk to Angela, just send her an email at info@magicsoftware.com. They'd like to meet about this Salesforce to Dynamics AX integration or another Dynamics ERP system. We'll be happy to do that. If you're outside of North America, it may be easier just to go to the magicsoftware.com website and select your country, and then you'll find contact details for someone in your country that speaks the right languages and is there and able to help you. And we're literally all over the world, so we're happy to do that for you. So with all of that, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to pass control over to Ted Brennan. And Ted is now going to be able to share his desktop so that we can see the Magic XBI integration platform and the reality behind the things that I've just been mentioning. Ted, I can see your desktop, so please take it away.
All right, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, everybody, wherever the case may be. My name is Ted Brennan, and I'm going to show you how we integrate Salesforce with Dynamics AX and other applications as well. So this before you is our new design studio for Magic XBI, and this is simply put where we create the relationships with the various applications we're working with. And so this is actually an opportunity for me to show off our brand new design studio. This is out as of August of this year, so it's just been released for a couple of weeks. We've had some people internally that have been working with it for a couple of customers before then, and everybody seems to really like it on the development side. For those of you who may or may not be familiar with Visual Studio, this will look very familiar, and that's because it opens in a Visual Studio shell. And the reason for that was to give developers really have a more comfortable working environment. You know, anybody who's done any kind of development at some point or another has worked with Visual Studio, but it still has the same kind of drag and drop, easy to use functionality and flows that allow us to perform the various integrations. So over here, as you can see in my desktop here, this is where I have the flows where we integrate. In this case, I'm integrating Salesforce with Dynamics AX, and they're built of these things on the left called flows. So a flow simply is where we take information from one environment and pass it to another. So as you can see, it's all very visual, and it's important to understand too that when we're talking about flows, you know, we're talking about Salesforce to Dynamics AX, but obviously, you know, like Glenn was talking about, and to kind of go into what Glenn was saying, once we have the information we need, we can pass it to multiple different locations. So here, I have a query looking for new accounts in Salesforce, and I'm going to pass them over to Dynamics AX. But you know, once I have the code to query a new account or to get new accounts, I can pass it to multiple different places. So whether we're talking about, you know, if you have an e-commerce application that's creating new sales orders, I can have new accounts or new customers passed from the sales order over to Dynamics AX. And if I have a PLM application that's handling my item master on Dynamics AX, well, I can have another flow that passes that back and forth. And so, and this code is all obviously reusable. So here are the different flows. Here's the Salesforce Dynamics AX, and here's a create AX customer, Dynamics AX customer. So once I have the logic behind the flow, I can just keep adding on to it. So I'm adding more functionality and adding new integration points would be just adding another flow. So if you have something like, if you have e-commerce applications, if you're getting data from, say, WebJaguar, but you're also getting orders from, say, Amazon or Etsy or you know, some other e-commerce, you can just pass that along to, you can just add another flow and integrate those particular applications, but the logic to create a new account or a new customer in Dynamics AX would be the same, so it'd be just passing it to the same flow. So as you can see, it's very visual, it's very drag and drop, and it's made of these things over the left we call connectors. So these are components rather. So one of these things that they do besides provide us with connectivity to these various applications we're working with, is they also come with the appropriate protocols as well. So regardless of whether or not we're talking about Salesforce or JDE or Dynamics AX, every application out there has a protocol that we have to follow. So not only does it come with those protocols, but it comes with schema discovery as well. So you can have the confidence to know that we're integrating with an application in the way it's intended to be integrated with. So for here, this is Salesforce.com. This is our pre-built connector for Salesforce. It's a Force.com compliant connector. It's actually certified by Salesforce. And the same thing with Dynamics AX connector. We have a connector certified by Dynamics AX. So that brings me to the point that we have really two different kinds of connectors. So the components, rather, are some what we call application specific, and you can see the various, I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see the various company logos and items we see here. So we have Dynamics AX, we have Dynamics CRM, obviously we have Salesforce, we have some for JD Edwards, but if we have an opportunity to integrate with another application that we don't have a pre-built connector for, well, that's okay, because we have what we call generic connectors as well. So here, if I have an opportunity to integrate with something we don't have a pre-built connector for, but there's a WSDL or a web service being published, or we can actually consume a WCF file now as well. We can go ahead and leverage that connector and connect to that application accordingly. We have an HTTP connector that allows us to connect to any HTTP component, so we can build and consume our own web services. We have an FTP connector where we can pick up a file from FTP, and it also supports secure FT as well. Here's our WCF client. We actually consume WCF services as well. So the general idea behind XPI is that we can take any application and integrate with any other application in a drag and drop code for utility. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So here, I'm going to go through this first flow. Before we can sync anything over, we have to get get anything that's changed or moved. So that's a good point. So we are an event-driven utility, and what that means is we just need an event to tell us what to do. So the event can be creating new records, or it can be updating existing records. So when I go into my connector and I go into configuration, as you can see, I'm doing a query against the account objects, and I'm returning all of the fields. So just to kind of show you, our connectors do, like I said, what is called schema discovery. So every time I click on this ellipsis, it's going to go back to this data point, and it's going to get me all the different data points that exist in this particular Salesforce environment. So if you've got custom index fields or custom data points, and here's a good example. This is a custom field data point we have here. We can get those on the fly. So anytime, and that helps you maintain your integrations as well. So unlike a typical point-to-point integration, if you add a new index field or add a new data point, it pretty much breaks the whole thing. Where here, all we have to do is open this up, refresh this schema, and the new index fields will show up. So here, just to kind of show you, I'm returning all the fields, and I'm passing it to an XML variable, and that's for a very important reason. So typically, when we do an integration, we don't typically go directly from one application to another. We pass that to an intermediary XML variable, and what that allows us to do is perform some transformations on that data. So as we all know, and like Glenn was talking about, and just kind of leverage Glenn was talking about, of course all these things have APIs and web services and all these neat tools, but the data dictionary is not always a one-to-one relationship between one application and another. And so by passing this as an intermediary XML variable, what that allows us to do is allows us to transform that data. So, and I'll kind of show you in a minute how we do that, but an example is, maybe we have something, we have a first name and a last name, and we need to pass that to a field that's simply name. Well, I can concatenate those two values, and the other way around too. If I've got something that is coming as a name, and I need to split that between first name and last name, I can split those out at the space between the first name and the last name. But we can get more elaborate than that too. Sometimes we need to build out an XML before we pass that on to something else. So if we're coming from, say, an e-commerce application, if somebody's creating a sales order, well, obviously in every ERP in the world, and Dynamics AX is no different, you can't create a sales order unless a customer is already in Dynamics AX. Well, I can create the customer on the fly. So kind of leverage, and to just kind of show you how we can leverage these different flows, I already have a flow here that creates an AX customer. So in this particular example, I'm looking for new accounts in Salesforce, and I'm creating an AX customer. But if I added another flow to create a sales order in Dynamics AX, obviously the first part of that can be creating an AX customer if the customer is not already in AX already. So rather than add another flow to check for and then create an AX customer, I could just leverage this existing flow and go to create AX customer. Okay, so here is how we pass that information from Salesforce to Dynamics AX. So here, I'm going to go in by Dynamics AX connector. I'm going to open this up to show you how our connectors work with our Dynamics AX connector. And this is pretty similar to how all of our connectors work. So what we really do is we're leveraging the web services that exist in Dynamics AX. So in Dynamics AX, there's a number of different web services, and I've got that set up here in our settings file. I've got all my resources for everything I'm working with. So as you can see, I got a lot of different stuff here. So I'm going to go into a different WSDL. So here, there's a number of different web service connectors that do various things in Dynamics AX. So our Dynamics AX connector leverages all these web services. So all we really do, and those of you who are familiar with Microsoft test environments, obviously Contoso is a test domain, a test environment. I have a web service here to create a new customer. So what all I do is I point that, I got my username and password, I load that service, and all the methods and properties that come with it are leveraged by this connector. So when I go into my connector, I have my service here, and I have all the methods and properties that are available to me here. So in this particular example, I'm creating a new customer, but I could also delete, I could do a search, I can read and update and do some other things as well. So this takes us to where we do most of our work. This is the Datamapper, where we go ahead and build that relationship to pass information from one to the other. So here's our Datamapper. Here is the XML variable that I passed when I found the new accounts, and this is the new customer WSDL in Dynamics AX. So here, if I want to leverage this, I can expand all these, and I can expand all these, and all I need to do to pass information from one to another is I right-click here, and I connect on that, and so when the sync goes over, everything here will be passed there. Okay. Now, but as we know, that's not always the end of it. So here, I can do a couple of things. We may have to transform some of this data. So to kind of show you, here's another one. Let's say a create date. So this is actually a date and time value that I may need to pass in. I'm just going to local date and time. It's just a like-by-like variables, and obviously there's a different type of value that it's expecting. So there's a couple of things I can do to transform this data. Number one, I can add some conditions. So I can say, you know, if this value and this value doesn't equal that, or I can do some check for some conditions to make sure everything is validated before I pass on that sync. Here, when I go to calculated value, this brings me a utility that allows me to transform that data. Okay, so here's a number of different VB.NET type functions that allow me to transform that data. So any of you out there have done any kind of VB.NET development, you can kind of see, these should look familiar to you. So they work kind of the same way. I use a lot of different these on a regular basis. Here's a good example, get date. So what this will allow me to do is if I go to get date and I go ahead and do a bracket there, it shows me all the values I need to pass from one to the other and the criteria to use that function. So here's a good example of one I use a lot. You know, if I got a date time value from one application, I may need to split that out between date and time. So get date will allow me to split not only the date value, so it'll pass the date value, it'll also give me the format, and depending on which switch I use, either 0 or 1, it can also convert that to a Julian date. So that's another example of how we can easily transform this data. So some applications out there do not accept regular dates. They like Julian dates and Julian times, so I can pass that as well. And so the idea behind this is we give you a very powerful utility. So here I'm just grab my variable here and pass my pass my parameters. And so the idea behind XBI is that we give you a very powerful utility. We say it's a drag and drop utility, but we give you some powerful tools that allow you to do anything a programmer can do. So, and this is taught at a business analyst level. You don't need to be a programmer to use all these functions and to do all this mapping. So there's, at the business analyst level, you can have a business analyst on your team that really has the same tools as a developer would use, and they can go ahead and really do anything a developer would do. Okay. I want to show off a couple more things here too. We also have native support for JSON code. I know that's a new functionality we have. A lot of integration web methods out there for various applications will only support JSON. We can go ahead and convert that with a schema to XML and be able to use that with all of our connectors here. Now that we've built and have our integration is up and running, hopefully we've done all our coding right and I've got everything right, but obviously we need to be able to monitor all that integration. For that we have a web-based monitoring tool. So this is new. This replaces a thick client we had before, and it's a lot more robust and allows us to get a good eye on what's going on in this environment. So here's our web-based tool. This is a monitor. We like to call this the good, the bad, and the ugly. So here I got a number of different filters I can apply to go ahead and manage this utility. So theoretically, if you have application-specific error messages, you can pass to this utility. Obviously, we have our own error handling methods, but we can pass applications. So if AX or Salesforce or something else is passing a very specific message, we can pass this to this utility. And by the way, this is the only place an administrator needs to be. Everything in production runs seamless to the end user. There's really no user acceptance in our world because all the integrations, when we do integrations between various applications, it all runs as a Windows service in the background, seamless to the end user. They don't need to install anything special in their workstations. They don't need to do anything different from otherwise what they would normally do. Okay. So here's messages. I can actually separate this out. I can separate between the ones that are running. I have one running. The rest have been stopped. I can go to my activity log. I can filter out. This is basically going to show me everything, but I can filter out specific flows, business processes, and flows. So it really allows me to have a good handle on everything going on in my environment. Speaking of which, when this runs in production, we run as a small, it was a really small digital footprint, runs as a service in the background. Doesn't need to be a Windows machine, can be on a Linux or an AS400, and we utilize that, we leverage that fact to allow us to deploy to 2 or more servers and implement active-active clustering. So to speed up integrations, we use a technology called in-memory data grid that allows us to pass a significant temporarily, in-memory data grid allows us to temporarily expand an internal server's RAM for the purposes of passing significant amounts of data back and forth. So it really speeds up your integration time. And it comes in with built-in active-active clustering. So typically what we will do is we will deploy to 2 or more servers. We will use a VOAMA product called Data Spaces for the in-memory data grid, and we build a space on these servers, and all the processing will take place on that space. And so the nice thing about that is if we have 2 or more servers, if one goes down, the other one will continue to process, and your integrations will keep running. And if you want to compare that in contrast to a typical point-to-point integration, if you have a DLL that's sitting on a server someplace, well, if that DLL becomes corrupted or that integration point breaks, well, the server goes down, well, there goes your integration. But with implementing the active-active clustering, your integration is protected. Okay, Glenn, that's what I was planning on showing today. I guess we can take some questions.
Great, thank you very much, Ted. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and take those questions. If you would, enter your questions, please, into the chat box. Send them to the host and presenter, and we'll be happy to provide whatever answers we're able to provide to your questions. Looks like a couple have already come in. Here's one. Which components handle REST WS? I guess that would be web services, REST web services. Can you hear me, Ted?
I can certainly hear you, but you guys can't hear me when I'm muted, so I need to take myself out of mute. So the HTTP component we can build and consume REST requests. We can also handle SOAP requests, and some of the older SOAP requests we can also handle through our WCF functionality here as well.
Okay, great, thanks. And someone says, I saw the IoT MQTT adapter. How do these work? IoT MQTT.
Using MQTT adapter, let me go into the. I know this is new. The MQTT functionality is new for the
Internet of Things, huh?
Yeah, that's for the part of the Internet of Things. It allows us to, it's a brand new connector. I personally haven't worked that much with it. It allows us to use some of the Internet of Things functionality, and so that builds right into it. Let me see if I have a...
So basically it becomes a resource in a business process flow. You can select from drop-down lists all the good things you can do with anything else, I guess.
Yeah, yes, it's a faster way of speeding up our integration with outside business processes. It just makes it easier. We had that functionality before, but now we have a pre-built connector specifically for it.
Okay. Well, here's another question. How do you control when the Salesforce info is passed real-time or batch?
Okay, that's a good question. So typically we have a scheduler that handles that. So depending on, well, we do it one of two ways. So we have different triggers we can set out for everything. So in this particular example, I'm looking for a new. I'm looking for a new account that's been created that doesn't have a specific flag set. So when I go in here, there's a couple things I can. Click out of it. So let me go into here and go into my configuration. I'm doing a query against all, but if we're doing a bulk upload, this particular connector, and indeed we leverage Salesforce's API to do bulk updates, bulk inserts. So depending on your particular business process, some things you want right away. So things like sales orders, accounts, that's probably something you're going to want right away. But if it's something like, sometimes bills of material or item masters, you really don't need those right away, and those can be rather large. So we might do a bulk update or a bulk insert overnight. And we can schedule that through our scheduler. So we have triggers that can schedule on whatever interval you would like. So it can run every 20 seconds. They can run daily, weekly, monthly. It's just whatever happens to your business process requires.
Okay, and it says you showed XML, but can XBI pass binaries or blobs?
Both. Yeah, that's when you create, so I'll just go ahead and show you. When in global variables, those are actually blobs. So here, if I create a new one, I want to create a new, this is a global variable, let me say a context variable. So as you can see, that's actually it. So if we create a new one, so it comes out as an XML, but we set it as a blob. So it's actually a blob, but it's actually in an XML format, but it's a blob variable.
Okay, thank you. And can you output data merged from SFDC plus AX to Excel spreadsheets, Salesforce and Dynamics AX to Excel spreadsheets?
Absolutely. We actually can go to a flat file here. So if I go to, where's my, here. So like I said before, before we pass anything out, we can build out some variables to collect a number of different data, and we can pass that accordingly. So if I go to our Dynamics AX, let's see if this would be nice to do this. So I can go to, instead of, let's say I had all this data, this is going to Dynamics AX, but let's say I had all this data in this XML, so I wanted to go to a flat file, I can just add flat file, and it'll set it as a flat file. But we also have, if you're talking about an Excel spreadsheet specifically, we have an Excel connector here as well.
Okay. And then, let's see if there's, oh yes, do you have to be a Magic XPI partner to use XPI? That's a good question. Well, I'll answer that one. I guess the answer would be no. I mean, certainly customers, end customers, use Magic XBI, and they're not necessarily have to sign up to be a partner. We do have business partners for Magic XBI that are trained and able to use the Magic XBI Studio on behalf of their customers. So basically system integrators and solution providers that are business partners for Magic XBI. And if you're interested in that, then you can certainly contact us at info@magicsoftware.com as well. info@magicsoftware.com. We'll be happy to help you. There's a partner section on the magicsoftware.com website as well. I don't see any other questions coming in over here on my side, unless you have some over there, Ted.
No, just to leverage what you just talked about using Magic XBI. You know, if anyone out there is interested in using this tool and they have an opportunity to integrate with anything, I think I can echo the desires of the sales teams. Is please contact us and we'll see how we can help you. We'd definitely like to talk to you about that.
Absolutely, and the Magic Software Users Conference is coming up at the Hyatt Regency Mission Bay in San Diego on September the 12th through the 14th. And so we would certainly invite any of you listening today to join us for that Users Conference as well, and that's available, information is available in the events section on the Magic Software website. So if there are no further questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to say a big thank you to Ted Brennan for a great demo today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again soon on another Magic Software webinar.